What happens when a first-class flight attendant publicly humiliates Keanu Reeves over his simple cross necklace? What began as an embarrassing incident transformed into a moment that would change the entire airline forever. And by the time the flight landed, no one would forget what Keanu said or the life-changing gift he gave that brought everyone to tears. Oh, and before we begin, tell us where you're watching this from. We love seeing your reactions in the comments. The luxurious first-class cabin of Flight 237 from Los Angeles to Chicago hummed with quiet activity as passengers settled into their plush leather seats. The soft glow of recessed lighting reflected off polished surfaces, creating an atmosphere of exclusivity and comfort. Business executives tapped on laptops, celebrities hid behind designer sunglasses, and wealthy travelers sipped complimentary champagne before takeoff. In seat 3A sat a man dressed in worn jeans, a simple black t-shirt and comfortable walking boots. His dark hair was slightly messy, and a few days' worth of stubble shadowed his face. Around his neck hung a modest silver cross on a thin leather cord. Nothing flashy, just a quiet symbol of personal faith. This man was Keanu Reeves. Though he wasn't traveling for a movie premiere or publicity event, he was simply flying to Chicago to visit his sister. Unlike many celebrities who demanded attention, Keanu preferred to blend in. He had requested no special treatment from the airline, checked in like any other passenger, and now sat quietly reading a worn paperback copy of The Brothers Karamazov, completely absorbed in Dostoevsky's words. Victoria Mercer had been a flight attendant for elite airlines for 15 years, and for the last 5, she had worked exclusively in first class. At 43, her blonde hair was always impeccably styled, her makeup flawless, her uniform perfectly pressed. She prided herself on recognizing VIPs and providing exceptional service to those who, in her mind, deserved to be in first class. But what most passengers didn't see was how Victoria treated those she deemed unworthy of the premium cabin. New flight attendants learned quickly that Victoria had developed an uncanny ability to sort passengers into categories: those deserving her attention and those who should be grateful just to be there. When Victoria spotted Keanu, she didn't recognize him with his beard and casual attire. All she registered was his worn jeans, simple t-shirt, and that modest religious symbol around his neck, clear indicators in her mind that he didn't belong in her cabin. "Excuse me, sir?" Victoria approached with a practiced smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I think you may have wandered into the wrong cabin. Economy class is further back through that curtain." Several nearby passengers looked up, suddenly interested in the interaction. Keanu marked his place in his book and looked up with a gentle expression. "I believe I'm in the right seat," he replied politely, reaching for his boarding pass in his pocket. Victoria's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Perhaps you misunderstood the ticket prices. First class is quite expensive." "I'm aware of the cost," Keanu answered calmly, holding out his boarding pass. "Seat 3A." Victoria glanced at the ticket, but made no move to take it. Her eyes flickered to the cross around his neck, and something in her expression changed. "That's a quaint little cross you're wearing," she remarked, her tone deliberately belittling. "We typically see more sophisticated accessories in first class. Cartier, Tiffany." She let her voice trail off suggestively. An elderly woman across the aisle gasped quietly. A businessman 2 rows ahead lowered his newspaper, his expression darkening as he witnessed the exchange. A young flight attendant named Maya, who was serving drinks nearby, froze in place, her face registering alarm at her colleague's behavior. "Is there a dress code for religious symbols in first class?" Keanu asked softly, his voice level but with an undercurrent of steel that hadn't been there before. Victoria flushed slightly. "Of course not, but we have certain standards." "I'd like to speak with your supervisor," Keanu interrupted, his voice still gentle but firm. "I am the head flight attendant on this flight," Victoria replied sharply. "Then I'd like the captain's name, please." Something in his quiet confidence finally triggered recognition. Victoria's eyes widened as she took in his features more carefully, mentally stripping away the casual clothes and facial hair. You're Keanu Reeves. And you're someone who just judged a passenger based on appearance and religious symbols, he replied without raising his voice. Neither of those facts is relevant to how you should treat people. The cabin had gone silent. Every passenger in first class was watching now. Victoria's face had drained of color as she realized her mistake, not just in failing to recognize a famous actor, but in having her prejudice exposed so publicly. I apologize, Mr. Reeves. I didn't recognize you. Can I get you anything? Champagne? An upgraded meal? No, thank you, Keanu replied, reopening his book. I'm fine. Victoria retreated to the galley, mortified. The other passengers stared for a moment longer before returning to their own business, though whispers quickly spread throughout the cabin. As the flight progressed, Keanu noticed how differently the two flight attendants working first class behaved. Victoria remained professionally polite, but avoided eye contact with him, focusing her attention on passengers she deemed more important. The younger attendant, Maya, treated everyone with equal kindness, from the CEO in 1D to the elderly woman who had used her life savings for a first-class ticket to visit her grandchild. During a quiet moment when Victoria was in the cockpit, Maya approached Keanu with a fresh glass of water. I want to apologize for what happened earlier, she said quietly. That's not what our airline stands for. It's not your responsibility to apologize for someone else's behavior, Keanu replied. Maya glanced over her shoulder to ensure Victoria wasn't returning. She's been terrible to work with, she confided in a whisper. 3 new attendants have quit in the past month because of how she treats them, and she's even worse with passengers she thinks don't belong. How long have you been flying? Keanu asked. Just 8 months, Maya answered. I'm working double shifts whenever I can. My mum was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer last year. The medical bills, she trailed off, then straightened her shoulders. But I'm going to make it work. I'm saving for flight school too. I've wanted to be a commercial pilot since I was 12. Keanu nodded thoughtfully. That's a noble ambition. Sorry, I didn't mean to dump my life story on you, Maya said, embarrassed. Can I get you anything else? I'm fine, thank you, Keanu smiled. And don't apologize for sharing your dreams. When the plane landed in Chicago, most passengers gathered their belongings and disembarked quickly. Keanu, however, remained seated until almost everyone had left. As Victoria passed by, purposely avoiding his gaze, he spoke. Excuse me, Victoria. Could you tell me who I might speak with about my experience today? Her face paled. Are you filing a complaint? I'd like to speak with someone in charge, Keanu repeated calmly. Victoria directed him to the customer service desk with trembling hands, certain her career was about to end. But Keanu didn't go to customer service. Instead, he asked to speak with the airline's regional manager. His quiet fame opened doors, and within 15 minutes he was sitting in a private office with Martin Calloway, Elite Airlines Midwest Regional Director. Mr. Reeves, it's an honor to meet you, though I'm deeply concerned about what brought you here, Calloway said, his expression grave. I understand there was an incident on your flight. What happened next surprised everyone. Instead of filing a formal complaint against Victoria, Keanu made an unexpected request. 2 weeks later, Victoria was called into a meeting with airline executives at the corporate headquarters. She arrived expecting a promotion. She'd been campaigning for a supervisor position for months. Instead, she found Keanu Reeves sitting beside the CEO, James Harrington. Ms. Mercer, Harrington began, his expression serious. Mr. Reeves has brought something concerning to our attention. After his experience, we've reviewed cabin footage from your recent flights and conducted interviews with your colleagues. Your behavior hasn't just been inconsistent with our values, it's been discriminatory to passengers you deem unworthy and hostile to your colleagues. Victoria's confident demeanor crumbled. I serve our premium passengers with the excellence they expect," she stammered. "Our investigation suggests otherwise," Harrington continued. "You've created a toxic environment that has resulted in high turnover and multiple unregistered complaints that never reached management because of your position." The meeting ended with Victoria being demoted to economy class and required to complete sensitivity and anti-discrimination training. It was humiliating, but it was also fair, certainly more merciful than the termination she might have faced. But that wasn't the end of the story. Keanu had also met with the airline's charitable foundation. By the following week, Elite Airlines announced the establishment of a $2 million scholarship fund for flight attendants seeking to become pilots. The program would cover tuition and living expenses, allowing recipients to focus fully on their training. The first recipient, Maya, whose mother's cancer treatments would now be fully covered by a separate arrangement while she attended flight school. When news broke about both the scholarship and the circumstances that inspired it, applications to work for Elite Airlines increased by 300%. The airline implemented a new training program emphasizing equal treatment for all passengers, regardless of appearance, faith, or perceived status. 6 months later, Maya received a package in her flight school mailbox. Inside was a beautiful model airplane keychain made of silver. Attached was a note that read, "Never forget that kindness is the only true luxury. Keep soaring, KR." Victoria eventually transferred to the airline's customer service training department, where, surprisingly, she excelled at teaching new employees about respecting diversity and avoiding prejudice. Her experience had transformed her. Painful as it was, it had opened her eyes to her own biases. 1 year after the incident, Keanu boarded another Elite Airlines flight. The entire crew treated him exactly as they treated everyone else, with genuine respect and kindness. As he settled into his seat, he noticed that every flight attendant's uniform now included a small silver pin with 2 words engraved on it: "Everyone matters." The story of what happened on Flight 237 spread beyond the airline industry, touching millions who heard about it online and through social media. True value isn't determined by appearance, faith, or status. It's not about the recognition we receive or the cabin we sit in, but the respect we show to every person we meet. Sometimes the harshest lessons leave the deepest impressions. And sometimes a simple silver cross can become a powerful symbol of equality that changes not just one flight attendant's perspective, but an entire corporate culture. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more inspiring stories about celebrities who use their fame for good. And share in the comments a time when someone stood up for you when you needed it most. Remember, kindness costs nothing, but changes everything.